everyone, this is Tricia and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful handmade round bows, and I'm going to show you 3 ways of how you can start making these. Alright, so the first one that we're going to make is going to be a round bow. This is a very basic bow that is used in a lot of floral decor. These can be made for your Christmas trees, it could be used for baskets, it could be used for wreaths, etc. It depends on how or where you want to use this. Now you need to start off with at least 3 yards of ribbon, and I like to use a 2.5 inch wide ribbon. This is a fabric ribbon. This has a wire on the edges. I purchased this from the Dollar Tree. This is a very nice ribbon. It does have its right side, which is what I call the pretty side, and then it's got the wrong or the underside. Okay, so we always want to keep in mind that we're always looking at the pretty side of the bow. So here's our bow, and I have 3 ways that we can do our round bow. The first is to start off with a loop in the center. So I'm going to take my measuring stick that I have right here, and I'm going to measure out about 6 inches, and then I'm going to loop those 6 inches. And it doesn't matter if you end up maybe grabbing another inch and you end up with 7 inches. So we're going to loop that, making sure the pretty side is what's rolled here, just like that. And right here where they're meeting, where I'm going to overlap at least 1 inch, I'm going to pinch it. And overlapping means right here I have 1 inch of ribbon. I want to have at least that so it doesn't slide out and the loop stays intact. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to pinch it. So this is always the top of my bow as I'm holding it in my hand. And normally I like to take all of my ribbon and just let it hang off the counter or table, whatever I'm working, and let it unroll. And if you're just working with a 3-yard roll, then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and just remove it completely off the cardboard, because that's just going to weigh it down and make it harder to maneuver. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove it, and then I'm going to let this kind of hang off to the side. And as you can see, once I've made this pretty loop, and I've got it like this and I've pinched it right here, then I have the underside of the ribbon showing. So in order to have the pretty side, I have to do a little twist. So this is what I call a pinch, because I've pinched it and then I've twisted it. So that's a pinch and twist, and now I've got the pretty side up. And I measure anywhere from 8 inches or 10 inches, depending, but I'm going to work with 8 inches. So I measure 8 inches, bring it to where I'm grabbing it with my fingers. Obviously your hand that you use to write with or you mainly work with is either your right hand or your left hand. So that hand is free to do the work, and the other hand will be the one holding the bow. So in my case, I'm right-handed, I'm multidextrous, so sometimes I hold them in my right hand and I work with my left. But I think the majority of the people are right-handed. So I'm going to hold it with my left. And right here where I measured the 8 inches, I just gather it up, pinch it, put it between my fingers, and there I am holding it. This should be 4 inches. There we go, 4 inches right there. Altogether it was 8. So there we go. It's an 8-inch loop, even though it looks like it's only 4, okay? So again, once we bring this over, we have the wrong side or the underside, or not the pretty side, showing. So again, we're going to twist. So we have the pinch and then we twist it. And now we want to make another loop. Now you can go ahead and measure out 8 inches and do that, or just grab it, kind of eyeball it, and what I do is I bring these 2 upward like that, and I can see that I have grabbed just enough. So there we go, just like that. So now we're going to pinch it, and of course there it is, and then we're going to do a little twist. Now I'm going to try and get 4 loops on each side. You can try and get 4 or 5 loops on each side. Again, depending on how many yards you have, you may end up just using 3. Because I did start off with this little loop in the front, I may end up using just 3 loops on each side. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to continue. And because I have this loop, these 2 loops already made, like, I don't have to be measuring. But if you want to, measure out your 8 inches and then do that. Pinch it, twist it, make your next loop. The way that I like to do it, I don't have to be measuring. is I just take these, because I have these two already made, I use those to just tell me where I need to fold the other one. Just like that. Pinch and twist. And then I can fold it, and always keeping an eye to see how much ribbon you still have left over. Okay? So we're going to, again, make our loop, pinch it, and twist. Now I see that I've got enough ribbon here where I can make another 2 loops on each side, so I'm going to go ahead and go on with making 4 loops. Twist, pinch and twist, make another loop, there we go, pinch, and then we're going to do one last twist so that we have our pretty side like that. And then you're going to take this end, and just like you did a big loop over here, well, actually we made a little loop at the beginning, but just like we made a loop at the beginning, we're going to make another loop, but this time it's going to be this big loop with whatever ribbon we have left over. Now if you took this from an even longer roll of ribbon and it still continues, then decide how long you want your tails to be, double it up, and that is your big loop. So this is where we're going to loop it again, take 1 inch, let's crunch it up right there, let's go ahead or pinch it up right there, and make sure we have at least 1 inch of ribbon right there, and then place that right there, okay? So that you have this big loop and you have this little loop. Now we can take a chenille stem or pipe cleaner and put it through this small loop, bring it around here, I've got it back here, around, and then right here. And then I can bring this one and meet up those two, and then just twist. And what I like to do is I like to twist my bow, because that tightens the loop inward rather than twisting it this way, because all you're doing is twisting the 2 ends, and we want to keep those 2 ends free and open because we want as much length as possible, and we want to tighten it right here so the loops don't come pulled down. We want them nice and tight. So just twist it around, and there we go. That's all you have to do. Now you just fold this in half, and you can cut it straight, or fold them, or you could cut them at an angle. What I like to do is fold it in half, and then cut from the fold upward, just underneath where I folded it up here. So I'll know that I'm separating those 2 pieces, and now we have these 2 nice little tails. Let me move this out of the way, and there we go. Now we're going to fan out our loops like so, always keeping the center loop, the smaller one, and we're going to poof it. And then once we've fanned out the other loops, we can go ahead and poof them as well. And you want to pull from way down here and spread them, and that poofs up your bow. So spread that, and then poof it, spread, poof. Okay, there we go. So there's our bow, and fix our loop here so it's a little more centered, because it makes these other loops look a little smaller. So just fix that up. Okay, so there we go. Now, once you've made your bow, and I'm going to give you a little tip here. Once you've made your bow, and we'll say, I think all the loops pretty much look the same, but let's say that one of your loops, for whatever reason, turns out to look a little bit longer than the rest. Let's say this one right here is longer than all these other loops. Like for some reason it just sticks out, and you're like, oh no, I have to take it apart and redo it because that one loop is bad. Well, you know what? You don't have to do that. Just go behind it and fold it, because you have a wire edge ribbon, remember? Just fold it up a little bit, just enough, and pinch it to where it'll be the same size as the other loops, okay? So just pinch it up a little bit in the back, and it'll match up. Of course, now it doesn't for me in this example, because it was right to start with. But just in case, if you have a bigger loop and you want to condense it because it's longer than the others, then just fold it up at the back and pinch it. Okay, now here's another little tip, and I've given this before. Let's say you've had this bow and you had it on a wreath, and it's nice and pretty, but you want to change it up. You want to change your bow out. So then you have this bow left over. what do I do with it? I can put it away. I can completely flatten it out and put it back together, put it back. I'm gonna show you that right after I do this. I'm gonna keep them poofed. Forgive me. Okay, so then what are you gonna do? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna recycle this bow because we've removed it from a wreath, for example, because we decided to change colors or for whatever reason we found another ribbon that we like more and we want to use that. So this bow, we're no longer using it, but I still want to recycle it. I want to be able to put it on something else or maybe put it on a little gift. Now, perhaps maybe the gift is a small little box and this bow is way too big, or maybe I want to put it in a little basket or a tiny little wreath. Let's just say this bow is just too big for the item where I want to put it on. What you can do is you can take right here, right in the center of the loop, and push it in and pinch right there where the wire is. Pinch it, and this is actually going to create like 2 loops here. Okay, you see that? And it's almost like a little heart shape if you look at it from the side, right there. So then you're going to take all of them and do the same thing. All right, the last loop, pushing it in and pinching it right on the inside, and now we have actually made our bow smaller, and it actually looks a little bit fuller. It looks like it has more loops in there. I like this idea for Valentine's Day because it ends up having these little heart-shaped loops, and you could actually end up making them even bigger so that when you do push them in and fold them like this, they'll actually not be as small as this if you wanted to use the same idea intentionally to create these little heart-shaped loops. And you'll be able to see them from the side. So here we go. We have made our bow smaller. And this has been one way to make a round bow. Now I'm going to make another bow for you. I have 2 other ways to make a round bow. And I'm not going to be as descriptive because I'm pretty much going to be repeating everything except how I start it and how it ends. Okay. All right, so this is going to be the second way to do a round bow. But instead of starting off with the 6 inches that we did the first loop, we're going to go ahead and start off with our 8 inches or even 10. I'm going to do 8 inches and make one big loop. And this time I'm not going to like bring it around and do this. I'm just going to set it on there like that, okay? So what you want to do is you want to gather your end, okay, or pinch it. Measure out 8 inches, fold, and right there where it measures 8 inches, pinch it again. So there we have a 4-inch loop, and then we'll have a 4-inch loop. So altogether, this is an 8-inch round bow. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna get it off the roll here and let it just hang off onto the floor so it's a little bit easier to maneuver. So you get, these are 3 yards, okay? I'm starting off with 3 yards again, just letting it hang loose. And we're gonna do the same thing that we did with the other round bow. We're gonna be doing our loops by twisting like that, measuring 8 inches or eyeball it and then bring them together, and yes, they're the same size. Again, pinch and twist. And just make as many loops as you can on each side. They don't have to be even amounts on each side because this is going to be a round bow, so you're going to end up fanning out your loops, so it doesn't matter, okay, how many you end up. You may end up making 5 on one side and 6 on the other, or 4 and 5. But always keep an eye on how much ribbon you have so that what you have in the end you can use for a tail. Okay, so we're just going to keep making loops. Again, I'm using these first 2, and I'm not worrying about poofing them up. I'm just going to keep them flat so that I'm using those as my guide for my size, or you could be measuring each one as you go along. I like to tell myself, don't worry about it if it gets scrunched up like that, because I can always pull it apart. The reason that that is happening with this particular ribbon, these are ribbons from the Dollar Tree, as I mentioned before. Now, there's nothing wrong with these ribbons. They're actually very good ribbons, but the fabric always tends to be very thin. So the wire kind of wants to get together, and that's why it does that. So you can just poof it out at the very end. So don't worry about it too much when you're working with it. I know that you're probably seeing me struggling with it, but really and truly, we don't have to struggle with it. Okay, I'm going to continue. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I've got 4 loops on each side, and this is what I have for a tail, and I decided that I want to have some nice little tails, and this is what I have left. So what I'm going to do here, just like I did with the other bow, in this case, I am going to loop it around this way, make sure I have a 1 inch of ribbon that's slack, and then I can gather it, pinch it there, and then I can just put my wire, twist a couple of times, and then just twist the bow. Now I can take what I call the ends, and you can cut them, just fold it and cut right in. Or if you want to do this thing where I like to do it this way sometimes, is I like to have one tail be longer than the other. So you could actually cut it over here if you want, and then have one longer tail. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to cut it right there. And I could choose to leave them straight cut like that if I want, but to make them prettier, I would either do a little angle cut like so, oops, like that. Let me put it on the table here so you can see it. A little angle cut like that, or fold it in half. From the fold to the edges, cut upward, and you get yourself a little dovetail. Okay, there we go. I've poofed up my bow, and I've actually cut this other little tail to match this one over here. All my loops are now poofed, and it's ready to be placed on a wreath or on my Christmas tree, on a gift, wherever I want to put this beautiful bow. Okay, so I started talking about this other round bow. So before we go on to the next way to make a bow, I want to tell you, because I started saying something and then I said, no, I'll save it till the end. What I was going to say is, let's say you take the wreath, your bow off your wreath or wherever you used it, and you need to put it away, either because it's the end of the season and the bow no longer goes, or just because you want to change it over, but you don't want to destroy the bow because it's still nice. We want to put it away, so we want to just bring everything nice and flat, and then just flatten out all your loops. Just flatten them out nice against each other. And what you do is you want to find the one that was at the very top, right here. And instead of fanning them out, what you're doing is you're fanning them back in. So this was that. And like that. Okay? So now I can take these tails and I can also fold. And then this one as well. I can also fold it behind, like so. And because it's wire edged, I'll be able to take it out next year and poof it back up again. And this way it's nice and flat. You can put it away, put them in a little baggie or a little shoebox. You know, those little plastic shoe boxes that have a lid on them. Store them away in there. If you want to, you could, let's say it's too wide, you can even fold it in half like that and put it away like so. Little Ziploc bags, whatever you want to, wherever you want to put these away. These are a nice way to store them. They won't get damaged, they won't get wrinkled. The only thing you got to do is just open it up the following year and then just fan it out again and poof your bow once more. Alright, so I've shown you 2 ways to start a round bow. I'm going to show you a 3rd way, and we're going to end up with it looking just like this one, but it's just going to be a different way to start it, and it actually happens to be the way that I end up starting all of my bows. So the first way was to start off with this little center loop. The second way was to start off with your 8-inch or 10-inch loop, depending on what size you wanted. You could even go 12 inches if you're going to make a super big bow. But we're working with 3 yards right now, so we're doing 8-inch loops. So we started off with a loop and we built the rest, and then we made a tail at the very end. And this is the way that I start basically all of the bows that I always make. Is what I end up doing is I always start off with at least one of the tails. So this is the length that I'm going to choose. I'm going to say 14 inches, okay? And then I'm going to pinch it, and then I start doing my loops. and I form all of my loops till I get towards the end, and then I just make sure that I have enough for another tail. And I want to tell you that I always work with 3 yards, but here I've got 4 yards, so I'm actually going to do a little bit bigger loops. Instead of working with the 8-inch loops, I'm going to go ahead and do 10-inch. So we're going to measure out 10, or we could do 12. And I'm going to look at this. This is a very sheer ribbon. I think this is from the Dollar General. Oh, it's from Big Lots is where I got it from. But I don't know if I got it last year or the year before. But anyway, I love it. It has these little owls. And I'm trying to decide which is the right side, because I already took it off the roll. And it pretty much almost looks the same on both sides. But the way that I know which is the right side is because this also has a little bit of glitter, and I can feel it right here. So now I know that this is the right side of my ribbon, because I can feel the little ribbon. So I said I was going to start off with like a 14-inch tail right there. I'm going to pinch it, measure 10 inches, and then just start doing a bunch of loops, because I have 4 yards to work with. And this was on a leftover ribbon, and this was 18 feet, so there was 6 yards here, so I guess I used a couple of yards for something else. Well, anyway, I'm just going to continue like I did before. Pinch and twist, loop, measure, yep, pinch and twist, lay these 2, fan them out, leave them flat. Start doing all my loops according to the size of these 2 first loops. Fold it, pinch, and twist. Fold it, pinch, and twist. Fold it, pinch, and twist. Now I'll just keep doing that till I get to the point where I have just enough ribbon for a tail. Okay, so I'm at the end here, and I'm going to see if I can go ahead and get another loop. Now, I had told you before that it didn't matter how many loops were on each side, because this is a round bow. Okay? And I have enough for a tail, so I was able to do 1 more loop, making sure it is the same size. It seemed like it was a little bit smaller. And I'm going to twist the very edge to make sure the tail is facing the right side up. You can always twist it after you've tied it all together, but that's okay. We're going to go and twist it now. Okay, and there we go. And then I can just take my 2 ends and cut them either straight or at an angle, or do the little dovetail just for fun. We'll do a little angle cut on this one. How's that? There we go. There's our bow. We're going to take our tail that we started off with, push it towards the back. Let's make sure this one's facing the nice side upward as well, like that, the pretty side up. I'm going to lay it and then just spread out all of my loops. So it doesn't matter how many I have, because I'm just forming a circle here, fanning them out, and then I can poof them up. And I always make sure that right here at the bottom that I spread those wires, because that helps to keep the ribbon popped open. Look at that. Look how pretty. And I would want to just show you that when I was doing the loops, I didn't struggle as much with it, because this fabric, even though it is sheer, it's just a little bit better quality than the one from the Dollar Tree. You wouldn't be able to tell until you're actually making the bow. So I was struggling with the other one because it kept wanting to do this. But this one, I didn't really have that problem with it. So that's how you'll know what ribbons you really like to work with, what brands, and so. But that'll be your choice. And of course, it'll be your choice how you start off your bow, whether you start it off with your loop and then worry about the tails, or you start off with a tail, bunch of loops, and then end with another tail. There's just 2 ways of doing it. As you can see, this was a little bit bigger because I did do 10-inch loops. So there we go. There's our 3 ways to make a round bow. All right, everyone, I have shown you how to make a round bow and different ways of how you can start making them. You can choose whichever way you feel most comfortable with. And like I said, these are 3 yards that I've used for these bows. This one was about 4 yards. But of course, you can then add more if you prefer to have a bigger bow. Also, leave a nice comment down below and let me know if you would like me to show you other ways to create different styles of bows and continue this little series. And I'll just let you know that I will be starting on Christmas pretty soon. So I think it would be nice to make some Christmas bows. So just let me know. And thank you everybody who has been subscribing. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and hit that little notification bell. I have videos every Tuesday and every Friday, and once in a while I have a weekend vlog. And don't forget to share on your social medias, everyone. It's very important for me that you do so. And as always, enjoy.